My name is Edward Johnson. When are you going to get married? I always get this pointed question from my mother over the phone. Then she adds, I want grandchildren, and such. Don't put such weird pressure on me. I feel like complaining more than she does. But I'm also 35 years old now. Without registering on a dating site soon, marriage seems impossible. But I just can't get motivated. Since my younger days, I've had the bad habit of procrastinating important things. Especially when it comes to romance, I've not grown out of my shyness. So recently, I started to read and to resign myself to the possibility of being single for life. And just one day, I decided to go back to my parents' house after a long time. It was a 3-day weekend, so I thought I might as well see my parents. But as soon as I got back, my father started attacking me too. When are we bringing a wife home? I was really fed up. Someday, I will bring her home. I said something vague and escaped to a nearby pub. Excuse me, another beer, please? I said and raised my index finger. How many hours have I been staying here? This is just like any other day, even though I came back to my hometown. Drinking alone can be fun, but feeling this lonely each time also makes me feel empty. I just wish I had someone to talk to. I suddenly felt lonely. My parents are old and logically thinking they will surely pass away before me. When that happens, I will definitely be all alone. Since becoming a working adult, I don't have friends I can call friends, and I shudder at the thought of how I would feel if I lost my family. What should I do? Maybe it's the alcohol, but I'm feeling more sentimental than usual. But then, that was the moment. A customer sat next to me at the counter seat. Johnson, the customer said, so I looked up. Michelle, the woman in front of me, had chestnut-colored semi-long hair. I didn't recognize her at first, but the moment I saw her big, round eyes, I remembered. Her name is Michelle Taylor. She was my first love. The first time I met her was in the first year of middle school. She was cheerful and straightforward and had many friends, regardless of gender. Even I, who was not good at talking to girls, could naturally talk to her. I still clearly remember the first time I talked to her. Hey, do we have to move to another classroom for the next class? Michelle asked, and I answered, yes, to the AV room. It was just a conversation, but my heart skipped a beat. And first, I just thought she was a good girl, but as I got to know her deep compassion and kindness, I completely fell for her. But the popular Michelle was out of my league. She was a pitcher in the softball club, and I didn't belong to any club. The term school cast wasn't born yet at that time, but I felt a big gap between Michelle and me, definitely putting us in different classes. After that, I continued to have a crush on her. In the second year of middle school, we were in different classes, and that was it. But every time we passed each other in the hallway, my eyes were following her. Love was still a mystery to me in my puberty. With my unrequited love for Michelle, we graduated from middle school without me ever expressing my feelings. Even I, who's stubborn, finally got over my crush on her when we went to different high schools. And now, Michelle is right in front of me. Moreover, even though it had been 20 years, I was surprised that she remembered me. Could it be you're here alone? Yeah, that's right. Really? Then let's have a drink together. Saying that, Michelle moved the seat she was sitting on closer to me. This trait of hers, being able to close the distance with people so quickly, was as amazing as ever. I don't think she intended to serve me in any way, but once again, I was easily captivated by her innocent actions. All right, cheers. With her lead, the setting was reset to a one-on-one drinking session. From our conversation, it seemed like Michelle too had come back home after a long time. But you haven't changed at all, Edward. I recognized you right away. Is that so? I haven't changed that much, hon. Even though 20 years had passed, being told that I haven't changed, I couldn't tell if I was a compliment or not. However, I thought that Michelle had changed in a good way. Back in middle school, Michelle was exactly like the ace of the sports team. The sports team, a lively girl with a short haircut, but now she gave off the impression of a truly wonderful adult woman. Therefore, me, having no immunity to women, was getting a little nervous from the allure she exuded. By the way, she seemed to be single as well. That fact alone was making me harbor some strange expectations. I was able to relax when our conversation shifted to work. She asked me, "What do you do for work?" And I answered, "I assemble precision equipment meticulously." Well, it's not a big deal of a job. It's something anybody can do, just an ordinary job. Although that sounded a bit of a complaint, she responded, "But you like that kind of work, don't you?" As if she understood. Because, Edward, even in middle school, you would finish up jobs that everyone else gave up on, like creating banners for the school festival or making the class newspaper, she said nostalgically, which honestly surprised me. Certainly things like that happened. I never thought she would remember such details about me, especially that banner for the school festival. It was really popular. The meat cafe we did all together. I'm sure a lot of people came because of your help. Lettered and questions. The meat cafe we did in our first year of middle school was, just as she said, quite a hit, ranking high even within our grade. However, back then, unlike me, there were lively girls and boys in our classmates, the so-called upbeat crowd, and I think it was the result of their efforts. Also, if the advertising effect of the banner I made contributed to the sales, it wasn't just my achievement since the banner was made by a few of us. No, I think it was thanks to your advice. Michelle, to my words. Michelle let out a surprised, "What?" When I was silently working on the banner alone, you came over specially to tell me, "This part would look better with these colors," Michelle asked. You remembered that, with a surprised expression? Of course, I did, I replied. Yes, for me, my memories with her are like taking out a photograph from a file in an album, even with my eyes closed. She meant that much to me. Well, I was silently looking back at those times in my heart. Michelle suddenly fell silent. Then she lifted her face and said, "Actually, since middle school, I've had feelings for you." Edward's best Kadapriyan response. Something unbelievable was happening right in front of me. I should have asked her various things. But before I knew it, the words that came out of my mouth were just me too hearing. That she smiled, we smiled at each other for a while, thinking about what to say next. Suddenly I thought about finding some topic to talk about and glanced at her. Sideways, her glass was already empty. When I took the menu and said, "Should I order another drink?" Michelle slowly shook her head. "I've been told by my doctor to limit my alcohol intake," she said, and suddenly started crying. I was taken aback by her tears. Not knowing what to do, I gently placed my hand on her back. It was my clumsy way of showing affection, wanting to be there for her as much as possible after Michelle calmed down a bit. I asked again, "Are you okay? And what's this about a doctor?" The words she uttered next were shocking. "I'm going to have brain tumor surgery." Next month, Michelle began to slowly share her story with me. She had been suffering from severe headaches and went to hospital where they discovered the brain tumor. Luckily, it turned out to be benign, and they said that she could fully recover with surgery to remove it. However, the tumor was in a tricky spot, and there was a risk of paralysis or speech impediments after the surgery. I wish I could have made more memories before finding out about this disease. Her voice quivering with emotion. Michelle's revelation was so shocking that I felt like the world was closing in on me. Just from listening to her, why does such a kind person like her have to go through this? I couldn't help but lament the injustice of it all, though I knew that sickness is beyond anyone's control. But I'm glad I could see you today, Edward. I was able to share my feelings that I've had since middle school. Thank you after sharing everything with me. Michelle gave a lonely smile. Is it too late now? I suddenly blurted out, catching her completely off guard. Her eyes seemed to be swimming wet. What do you mean? I looked straight into her eyes and said, "I was just thinking, if you end up with a disability, does that mean we can't make memories together? I want to make memories with you from now on." She shook her head, saying it would only cause trouble, but I insisted that I still wanted to see her again. I confessed, "I like you." Michelle exploded. It was a confession 20 years in the making. However, she couldn't accept my feelings. But we did make a promise to hang out together. From that point on, I went back to my hometown every holiday, taking care of Michelle's health while we spent time together. I tried to create as many memories as possible, taking her to various places. "It's finally tomorrow," she said with a smile, though her expression showed fear. I firmly grasped her hand. "I took the day off on your surgery day. I'll be waiting in the waiting room until it's over. I'll be with you the whole time, so everything will be okay." Hearing that, she smiled happily, said, "I can rely on you. Thank you so much." She thanked me and squeezing my hand back. I confessed to Michelle once again, telling her that my feelings hadn't changed. This time, she accepted my feelings with tears in her eyes. She had been afraid that her potential disabilities would be a burden to me, which is why she had been refusing me. But in the end, she couldn't resist my persistence, and my long-held love was finally reciprocated. I was finally able to call her by her nickname Shelley, something I had dreamed of since middle school. Michelle's surgery went well, and it was a complete success. The doctor confirmed it to me, allowing me to finally breathe a sigh of relief. When I asked Michelle, lying in her hospital bed, "Are you okay?" she looked straight into my eyes and said yes. Hearing about her recovery, I learned that she did have some paralysis in her limbs and would need rehabilitation, but she would be able to return to her normal life, thanks to her hard work in rehab. Michelle's condition greatly improved. She needed to use a cane just to be safe, but she could live her daily life without any major issues. However, when the day of her discharge was decided, I noticed Michelle looking down, her face filled with anxiety. "What's wrong?" "The doctor said there might be various complications later on," she replied, looking worried. Her illness was not completely cured. Living with a bomb inside her body must be a terrifying prospect, something I, with my healthy body, couldn't even imagine. So I promised Michelle, "No matter what happens, I will be by your side, so don't worry." She nodded through her tears, and we hugged each other strongly. Someday, I plan to propose to Michelle, telling her that I want to support her for the rest of our lives. And I want to take her to meet my parents, who have been eagerly waiting for me to bring a girlfriend home.